In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at what's called volume percentage concentration. And so we need to define three terms. A solute is a substance that's mixed into a solvent. And when they're mixed together, they create what's called a solution. And I'm going to give you three examples that you probably heard at least a couple of these. So the first one, salt is a solute that can be dissolved into water. Water would be the solvent to make salt water. So once they're mixed, the solution is called salt water. Here's another one. Acetic acid is a solute that's dissolved in water. Water is a solvent in for lots of things. And together that makes vinegar. Vinegar would be the solution. And here's one more. They don't always have to be liquids, although to mix them you need them in a liquid state usually. Tin is a solute. Okay, it's a certain kind of metal that if you dissolve it into liquid copper, you'd need to heat the two. The copper would be the solvent to make bronze. When you mix them together, bronze is the solution. Now the substance in the greater amount is the solvent. So for example, salt water, you're really probably not mixing much salt at all into water to make salt water. It might be a very small percentage, like 2 or 3% or something like that. So the thing in the smaller amount is the solute, the thing in the larger amount is the solvent. So now that you know what those three things are, in order to calculate volume percentage concentration, you take the ratio of the solute, what you're mixing into, and it's the ratio of that into the entire solution. You see, if you add the solute and the solvent together, you get the solution. So this you don't actually see solvent in this at all. So it's the amount of solute divided by the volume of the entire solution, and then times 100%. This will be just a decimal, and once you multiply it by 100%, that'll give you the percentage. So we'll take a look at two examples on the second and third page. In this first one, vehicles have antifreeze that's added to their radiators so that when the temperature gets colder, the engine doesn't freeze because there's just water in it. If there was just water in it, it could freeze, crack, and then it's not going to work anymore. It's going to be destroyed because the block would be cracked. Now, so the question here is, if you mix 2 liters of antifreeze with 3 liters of distilled water, what is the antifreeze concentration? So the solute, the smaller amount, would be the 2 liters of antifreeze. So if we look at our flask here, so there's the 2 liters of antifreeze. The solution would be the entire mixed amount. So we're taking 2 liters of antifreeze and mixing into 3 liters of water, the still water. So altogether it's 5 liters of solution. So if we put the other 3 liters in, so that would be the 5 liters total. So if we take our volume percentage concentration formula, so the solute would be the 2, the solution volume is the total 5. So 2 divided by 5 is 0.4, and if you multiply that by 100%, that gives you 40%. So this is what's in the radiator. There's 5 liters of liquid there. 40% of it would be antifreeze, and actually 60% would be water, because those two percentages have to add to 100%. But it would be 40% antifreeze. That would be the volume percentage concentration of the antifreeze. One more example. Melanie is a chemist who has 2 flasks, and one of them has 400 milliliters of a 25% acid solution, and the other has 800 milliliters of a 40% acid solution. So there's different percentages, different concentrations in each one. If she mixes both together, what percentage concentration will she have? So I've organized this into a table. We're going to figure out the total amount of solution, the total amount of solute, and then we can use that formula. So the solution is how much you're mixing all together. So there's 400 milliliters in this one, there's 800 milliliters in this one. We would add those two together. So the total solution when we mix them would be 1200 milliliters. So for the acid solute, we need to use these numbers that we have here. So the amount of acid in this is it's 25% of the 400 milliliters. There's 25% is acid, and then the other 75% would be water or what other substances would be mixed in there in the solvent. So for the actual acid, we need to find 25% of 400. So 25% is 0.25. We multiply that by 400, so we get 100 milliliters. So 100 milliliters of this 400 is acid. Let's do the other one now. So it's 40% of 800 will be the amount of acid solute in that one. So 40% is 0.40 multiplied by the 800, which gives us 320 milliliters. And of course, we will add the two of those together, the solute here plus the solute here. So altogether, we've got 420 milliliters of solute of acid in this solution. So here's the volume percentage concentration formula. So the solute volume is the 420. The solution volume is the total 1200. So that's the ratio of acid to the whole solution. If you divide 420 by 1200, you get 0.35. And if you multiply that by 100, you get 35%. So the final product, if you add the two of these together, it would be 35% acid. And that's the end of the tutorial.